Have you ever felt that sudden shift? One day, they're texting you first, making plans, lighting up your phone with affection, and then suddenly silence, fewer calls, short replies. You feel them slipping and panic kicks in. Your heart races, your brain screams, "What did I do wrong? How do I fix this?" Here's the truth. Almost everyone makes the same mistake at this exact moment, and it's the very thing that pushes the other person even further away. So the next time you feel someone pulling away, remember, the biggest mistake is to chase. Step back, center yourself, and allow your value to speak louder than your anxiety. Because the right person doesn't run when things get real. They step closer. And if they don't, you've just made room for someone who will. When you feel someone pulling away, the natural instinct is to hold on tighter. It's like trying to grab water slipping through your fingers. The harder you squeeze, the faster it escapes. This is the biggest mistake people make. They start chasing. At first, it doesn't even feel like chasing. It feels like showing you care. You send a few more texts than usual. You call because you just wanted to check in. You try to plan something special to remind them how good things are with you. But underneath all of that effort is fear. The fear of losing them. And fear has an energy you can't hide, no matter how you dress it up. It seeps into your tone, your timing, your body language. The person on the other side doesn't think, "Wow, they must really like me." Instead, they feel pressure. They sense that you are trying to pull them back against their will, and the natural reaction is to pull even further away. What makes chasing so dangerous is that it sends the wrong message about your worth. Think about it. When you pursue harder the moment they retreat, what you're really saying is, "Your approval defines my value." You may not say those words out loud, but your behavior screams them. And nothing kills attraction faster than the feeling that one person is dependent on the other for their sense of identity. People are drawn to confidence, to someone who knows they are already enough. The moment you start begging for reassurance through constant attention, you stop being that person. You transform from the confident, attractive individual they were once drawn to, into someone whose happiness is at the mercy of their text messages. Another trap of chasing is that it erases mystery. In the beginning, part of what made you exciting was that you had your own life, your own rhythm, your own independence. They wanted to be part of that world. But when you suddenly drop everything to run after them, you show that you have nothing better going on. You become predictable, available at all costs, and therefore less desirable. It's not about playing hard to get. It's about being someone worth getting. And when you chase, you forget that. The irony is, the more you chase, the less you get. You think you're repairing the connection, but in reality, you're widening the gap. It's like standing in front of someone who's leaning back. You lean forward, and what happens? They lean even further away to keep their balance. Chasing triggers the exact opposite response you want. Instead of sparking closeness, it suffocates it. When you feel someone pulling away, it can stir up a storm inside you. The anxiety, the overthinking, the desperate search for answers. It all feels so overwhelming in the moment. But the truth is, what makes or breaks that moment is not what they do, but how you respond. Chasing them may feel like the only option, like the fastest way to fix the problem, but it's actually the fastest way to lose yourself. The more you fight against that distance, the more you lose your balance, and the more they sense a version of you that isn't attractive, grounded, or confident. The mistake isn't that they pulled back. The mistake is when you abandon your own value to try to stop them from leaving. Instead, the path to real connection begins with restraint and self-awareness. By resisting the urge to over-pursue, you show that your self-worth is not negotiable and not dependent on anyone else's actions. Pulling back when they pull back doesn't mean you don't care. It means you care about yourself enough not to hand over your power. It gives the other person the space to decide if they want to step forward again, not because you begged or pressured them, but because they truly choose to. That is what builds healthy attraction, two people meeting from a place of want, not need. At the same time, redirecting your focus onto your own life is the ultimate antidote to fear and desperation. When you're living fully, engaging in things that make you happy, and building a life that excites you, you naturally become magnetic again. You remind yourself and them that your value was never tied to their attention. You were whole before them, and you will be whole without them. Ironically, it is that strength, that fullness, that often reignites their interest. And even if it doesn't, you've already won, because you refuse to let someone else's distance drain your joy. So the next time you feel someone drifting, take a deep breath and remember, don't chase. Step back, stand tall, and let your worth shine without apology. The right person won't run away when things get real. They'll lean in closer, and if they don't, consider it a blessing, because life just cleared space for someone who sees your value without needing to be convinced. That's not just how you avoid the mistake of chasing. That's how you build love that lasts. When someone begins to create distance, the knee-jerk reaction most people have is to close the gap immediately. You feel their silence like a weight on your chest, and the panic inside whispers that the solution is to do more, talk more, give more. But in reality, the smartest and most powerful move you can make is to do the opposite, pull back. This doesn't mean you suddenly ice them out or play manipulative games. It means you respect the natural rhythm of connection. Relationships, like breathing, have an inhale and an exhale. When they exhale and create space, you don't try to hold your breath and suffocate them with attention. You exhale too. You give space where space is needed, not as punishment but as balance. Pulling back is not about indifference, it's about self-respect. It's about saying, I'm not going to try harder for someone who's giving less. This protects you from falling into a dynamic where you are doing all the emotional heavy lifting while they're coasting. When you immediately try to bridge the gap by pouring in more effort, you actually enable their withdrawal. They learn, consciously or subconsciously, that you'll do the work of maintaining closeness while they drift at their convenience. By stepping back, you signal that your energy is not infinite and that attention from you must be earned. The beauty of pulling back is that it restores equilibrium. You're no longer pushing against resistance. You're letting them decide if they want to lean in again. This shift removes pressure from the interaction, which is often what the other person was reacting to in the first place. They may have pulled away not because they don't care, but because they felt overwhelmed or uncertain. By pulling back, you release that pressure and give them the freedom to choose. And freedom is where genuine closeness grows, when someone moves toward you not because they were chased, but because they truly wanted to. There's also a deeper, personal benefit to this approach. Pulling back forces you to ground yourself in patience and self-control. It stops you from spiraling into reactive behaviors that erode your dignity. It's a reminder that your peace doesn't have to be hijacked by someone else's inconsistency. You get to pause, breathe, and reconnect with your own rhythm. That strength is magnetic. People are drawn to someone who doesn't unravel at the first sign of distance. By stepping back, you communicate with your actions that you are secure, valuable, and unwilling to beg for connection. And that is infinitely more attractive than any number of desperate messages or last-minute plans you could ever make. When distance begins to creep into a relationship, it's easy to make that gap the center of your world. You start obsessing over what they're thinking, why they're acting differently, and what you can do to pull them closer again. But the danger in this is that you hand over all your emotional energy to someone else's inconsistency. That's why the smartest move in this moment is to take all that attention you were pouring into them and redirect it back into yourself. When you shift the focus to your own life, not only do you protect your peace, but you also restore the very qualities that made you attractive in the first place. Think about it. When you first met, what drew them to you? It wasn't that you were sitting around waiting for their texts. It was that you had your own passions, your own friendships, your own identity. You had a spark that came from being engaged with life, and they wanted to be part of that world. When you lose yourself in someone else's attention, that spark dims. You become less of the vibrant, magnetic person they were once excited by, and more of a shadow waiting for validation. Shifting the focus back onto yourself reignites that spark. It says, I am whole with or without your constant reassurance, and that energy is irresistible. Redirecting your focus doesn't mean pretending you don't care. It means caring enough about yourself to keep your life moving forward. Call your friends and make plans that fill you with laughter. Dive into your passions, whether that's fitness, reading, creativity, or learning something new. Take care of your body, your career, your goals. Even the small steps, like cooking a meal for yourself, redecorating your space, or starting a book you've been meaning to read, remind you that your life is bigger than one person's attention. These actions not only ground you, but they also rebuild the confidence that distance can shake. The irony is that when you pour back into yourself, you naturally create the very energy that draws people back in. Confidence, joy, independence, these are magnetic qualities. When you're centered in your own life, the absence of their attention doesn't feel like an earthquake. You don't crumble when they step back, because your sense of worth isn't hanging on their behavior. And often, that strength makes them lean in again, because it reminds them of who you are, someone they have to earn, not someone who waits around to be chosen. Whether they return or not, you win, because you've built a life that excites you and sustains you, no matter who's standing beside you. When you notice someone pulling away, the urge to talk about it can come from a place of fear. That fear whispers, if I don't say something now, I'll lose them forever. And so, many people rush into emotional conversations where the energy is panicked, needy, or demanding. They ask, why are you acting different? Are you losing interest? Did I do something wrong? While these questions may feel honest in the moment, they actually come from a place of insecurity, and that energy rarely creates closeness. Instead, it tends to push the other person further away, because no one wants to feel like they are being interrogated or forced into emotional reassurance. The truth is, communication is absolutely necessary, but it has to come from a place of strength, not fear. Speaking from strength begins with clarity about your own worth. You're not approaching the conversation to beg for answers or to convince them to stay. You're showing up to express your truth calmly and confidently. There's a world of difference between saying, why aren't you giving me attention? You must not care about me anymore. And saying, I've noticed some distance. If you need space, I respect that, but I value honesty. The first statement screams desperation. The second reflects composure, self-respect, and boundaries. One makes you appear dependent. The other shows that you're secure enough to face reality without falling apart. That kind of communication shifts the entire tone of the interaction. Another part of communicating from strength is timing. You don't need to chase them down in the middle of their withdrawal, hammering them with questions. Give them space first, and when you do decide to talk, do it from a place of calm, not panic. This way, your words aren't reactionary, they are intentional. You're not trying to force an outcome, you're inviting clarity. When you speak with patience and composure, you not only protect your dignity, but also make it easier for the other person to respond honestly, without feeling cornered. Finally, communication from strength isn't just about what you say. It's about what you're willing to do afterward. If their response shows that they can't meet you halfway, strength means you're prepared to walk away with your self-respect intact. You're not holding on at any cost. You're saying, I know what I deserve, and if you can't offer that, I'll make room for someone who can. That is the ultimate form of powerful communication, not clinging, not pleading, but calmly stating your truth and then standing behind it with action. This shows that you don't just know your value, you live it. When someone starts pulling away, it's one of the most unsettling experiences in dating. Your heart tells you to act fast, to do whatever it takes to keep them close, but your instincts in that moment can betray you. The mistake most people make is to chase, over-texting, over-calling, and over-giving, when in reality, that very behavior widens the distance. What you've learned today is that chasing is not love, it's fear dressed up as effort. And fear never builds closeness, it only accelerates loss. The healthier and stronger choice is to step back, to mirror the energy they're giving, and to reclaim your self-respect in the process. Pulling back when they pull back isn't playing games, it's protecting your value. It's showing them and reminding yourself that your worth isn't tied to someone else's inconsistency. You become someone who doesn't need to beg for connection because your presence is already a gift. That shift alone changes everything. It removes the pressure, restores balance, and gives the other person the freedom to choose whether they want to lean back in. At the same time, the secret to regaining your power is to reinvest in yourself. When you fill your time with friends, passions, goals, and joy, you stop waiting by the phone for their validation. You become whole again, magnetic again, irresistible again. The irony is that focusing on yourself is often what reignites their attraction, but the real prize isn't them coming back, it's you rediscovering that you were never lacking in the first place. Whether they return or not, you rise, because your happiness no longer depends on their presence. And finally, when the time comes to talk, do it from strength, not fear. Speak your truth with calmness and dignity. If they can meet you there, great, you've built a stronger bond. If they can't, then you've protected your energy for someone who will. Because the right relationship doesn't require chasing or begging, it flows with balance, honesty, and respect. So, the next time you feel someone slipping away, remember, don't fall into the trap of fear. Stand tall, step back, and let your worth shine so brightly that the right person can't help but move closer. Thank you so much for spending your time with me today. I hope this message gave you the clarity and strength you need when you feel someone pulling away. Remember, your value isn't determined by how someone else treats you. It's something you carry within you. If you found this helpful, don't forget to like, share, and leave a comment with your thoughts or experiences. Your support means the world, and it helps me keep creating content that empowers you in your relationships and your life. Make sure you hit that subscribe button and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss future uploads. I'll be sharing more tools, insights, and strategies to help you step into your confidence and create the love you deserve. Until next time, take care of yourself, stand tall in your worth, and remember, you are enough exactly as you are. Thank you, and goodbye for now.